Welcome everybody to another Wellness Wednesday. Today I'm super excited to have Lucy Norris on the show. Lucy Norris is a transatlantic digital content guru. She is the founder of OCP Marketing. She is also head of content at Ecrubox. And now recently she started one more thing to add to her incredible CV, which is founder of Secondhand Styles. Okay. Lucy, welcome on our Wellness Wednesdays, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Giovanna, thank you so much for asking me. It's my absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for such a kind introduction as well to your show.
Well, it's all very true. So, will you want to add anything in particular on your background and who you are and what you do before we get started?
The only thing I would add is that my background has generally always involved some aspect of fashion. So whether it's creating content around fashion, writing about fashion, advising brands who are in fashion, I think fashion's played a very important part in what it is that I do. And it's definitely something that's kind of led me into this new project. Because just as you were saying in that introduction, I did think to myself, wow, there's a lot of things that I've got juggling at the moment, but it does make sense why secondhand styling is the next thing when it comes to sort of the chapters that I'm creating.
Okay, but one thing is dealing with fashion and working with fashion, and the other hand is becoming a founder of a secondhand stylist platform. So one thing that I ask everybody who's coming on the show is, what was the moment that triggered this to make this passion into a new professional activity as well?
So it actually happened, I'd say, round about Easter this year, and I just got to a point. So during the second lockdown, well, the first lockdown, I was making lots of videos, as everyone was, but about OCP and giving top tips on how to be present in front of camera, because that's what I've done for so many years. And I thought, well, let me help share some tips and advise people as they have to embrace the digital world. The second lockdown, and of course, I need to add that I live by myself. So what other way to pass time than to create videos and go live? So in the second lockdown, I thought it was really important to help any independent British brands really share their story during lockdown. I just moved to Altrincham, which was very much founded upon independent brands, and we've got a great market there, but of course, you know, nothing was open. So I wanted to create a platform for them to be able to share their stories. So I did that in the second lockdown. And then during Easter, something was still kind of missing for me, and I wanted to create that next project, and I didn't know what that next project necessarily was. And my boyfriend actually said to me, but what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you absolutely adore? Is it not clothes? And I looked at him and I thought, yeah, but I'm not a designer. I'm not, you know, I've never been that person. In the fashion world, I've always been creating conversations, but I've never been the actual sort of visionary or the person with the ideas. And then he said, yes, but what you do have is this eye for secondhand, and it's the thing that you don't necessarily talk about. And I was like, but why would anyone be interested in that? It's because, and then he said, it's because of how you do it. And it's literally been in my life since I was a very young girl. Right now I'm in my mom's house, and she was the reason why secondhand was such an important part to my upbringing out of necessity, but she taught me about what it means to really have an eye for detail and quality. And anyway, long story short, secondhand has always been there, but it's not necessarily something that I've spoken about. And now it's kind of become this platform that is definitely making a few moves.
Yes, and actually, I followed you from the start because I followed you on your other platforms already. And so when you came in with the secondhand styling, you got me hooked straight away, and it's been great. And I saw the incredible traction you had from the start. So it is a very, obviously I'm a sustainable brand, and I support anything that has to do in any way with sustainability, from lifestyle to actual products. It is causing actually a lot of interest also from people who are not ultimately thinking that they are looking for something sustainable, right? It's just there. It's secondhand fashion is amazing because it's good for the environment. Okay, that's one thing, but it also gives us an opportunity to get amazing pieces that maybe we cannot afford off the rail, in great condition and bargain prices. So it is a great advantage to be able to actually buy secondhand. But before we go into detail of secondhand, what is your exact mission and what are the values of your venture?
So the mission is to celebrate things that already exist and to educate, inspire, and help others to incorporate that stuff that is existing in the world right now into their own lives, whether it be, you know, through the looks that they're curating or the looks that they're sharing with others, or the pieces that they're purchasing that are secondhand and then they're gifting to somebody else. So it's about this circle that actually can have quite a big impact in so many different aspects of the fashion supply chain. But it is about giving people that access to fashion and good quality fashion that maybe they wouldn't have had access to before. So it's about making it accessible, but it is about trying to change the mindset, because the one thing I am very much aware of is that vintage and secondhand is trending right now, and I get that. And there are sort of negative connotations that can come out of this if we're not aware, if we're not sharing and educating in the right way, in order to make this not a short-term trend, but instead a long-lasting shift that we have as conscious consumers.
What would you say are these negative connotations that people have with this, apart from that it's new stuff, right? Which is not necessarily true, because very often you find things that have still the label, the original label on, right? So they're not necessarily have been secondhand. Yeah, secondhand because somebody else bought them, but not actually worn. Is that one of the connotations you're mentioning? You're thinking about?
Well, there's that. So for example, if someone bought something and they just haven't had the opportunity to wear it, and then they're passing on, but they never wore it, so it's still brand new, but it's in a secondhand shop. Is that classed as secondhand? Yes, because otherwise it would have been going to a landfill or it would have been a waste. So yes, it's continuing on in the cycle. So that's good. But then what about those, you know, charity shops that we go into now that have those sample pieces from a fast fashion chain? And what is happening is you get a fast fashion chain who are donating those samples to a charity shop. Then you have a young person going in there thinking, well, hang on, this fashion brand is donating to this charity, so therefore it's good, right? And I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's something that we need to be aware of. And I'm aware of it because I go into these charity shops and I do think, oh, that's quite a fun cut. That's something different and unique. And then I look at the label and I know the quality and I know it's not good quality. So what's happening now is that we have fast fashion. It plays a very big part in the way that people shop.
Yes.
And because it is affordable. And so that is popular sort of area of fashion. And then that will tend to come up in charity shops because people are donating that. So we want secondhand to remain quality. We want the quality that you got from the 50s and the 60s. We want today's designs to be as, you know, well made so that they can become tomorrow's vintage. And that is about education. So that's one thing that, you know, aware of. The other thing is, because it's affordable, people can buy a lot of secondhand. So therefore, are you just overbuying? That's not necessarily good. And then the final part of something, and these are all things that I'm aware of as I'm looking into it and as I'm sharing, so I'm learning. But people shop secondhand out of necessity as well of just wanting something that's trending. And so if you can afford a £50 sustainable t-shirt, you know, do you buy that, or do you buy the £5 t-shirt that you found in a charity shop that maybe the other person could have only afforded that £5? So there's lots of different areas. The fact is that I want secondhand styling to be fun, but I also know that I have a very strong responsibility to play in the messages that I share, and that is something that I'm just aware of as I go on this journey.
Yeah, you raised really good points there. Yeah, I wasn't actually thinking that. Secondhand shopping could have an impact on little brands like me, because people then go and buy secondhand. Yes, it's a good point. Yes, but you know, that's another thing. The second hand, that is something I've been considering. Am I going to bring it into my brand? Am I going to allow people to source my things on my site secondhand so they can swap? Probably with my collection gets bigger, it's something to consider to give them this option so that, you know, my bags do stay in circulation for as long as they're meant to be. But you mentioned something earlier that I want to pick on when you said it's very easy to over purchase, right? When you do secondhand, because everything is so cheap. So yeah. Do you personally have a shopping strategy in place when you go into the secondhand shop? Do you go in with a purpose? I'm just going to buy what I need, or I'm looking for this particular piece, and if I find it great, and are you then sidelined often and see something which is great, which I know because you posted when you were out, you saw this wedding dress, right? And whilst you don't plan to get married, it's exactly the style that you like and love, and so you did ask Paul, and I don't know what the result was because I know I voted.
The result was
buy or not buy, purchase, and I said don't purchase.
And I probably should have listened. I did go and purchase it, and I did. However, with the intention of actually using it to create something brand new. So now I'm going to make it into 2 pieces. I've signed up for sewing class, and that I'll be going to every week for the next like 3 months.
Wow.
So this is something. So this is kind of like the next layer to what I'm doing, because I will confess, I used to buy too much secondhand. And it happened in New York about 3 years ago, where I had 2 of my best friends come to my apartment, look at my stuff, and they just said, "No, this is ridiculous. When did you last wear this piece?" Da, da, da. They stripped my rails. We donated so much. And then I started with a very sort of capsule secondhand closet. When I moved back to England 2 years ago, I had to start my closet again because I'd left everything in storage in America. So it's a case of knowing what I have, knowing what I need. But what I also do is when I see on Pinterest or on social media, any sort of look that's come in that I think, oh yeah, that's the oversized look, I would love to curate that. Yes. It's in my mind. And so I'm thinking, okay, if I see something that's oversized, that's a look that I'm trying to curate right now. I can kind of look into that, but how many looks can I make out of that one piece? So constantly thinking about maximizing the pieces that I have, repurposing them. And then I'd also say with strategy, I always tend to, if it's got a vintage label, it's hard for me to say no sometimes. And so if it's not for me, I think who in my friends would look perfect in this? I send videos or do a live shop with them and then send it to them. But I think having a capsule wardrobe and really knowing what you have is very important to impact what you buy next.
Yes, very tempting though, you know, to overbuy.
Very, very. I had to walk out with a pair of boots the other day. It was very hard, but I did it.
Yes, and I can't believe you're parting from the beautiful lace number and giving it to your friend because it's gorgeous. Anyway, to go back to that wedding dress that you're going to repurpose, please do share though what you're doing with it, because I'm sure there were a lot of people following you interested what the destiny of that beautiful dress was. So now, if somebody's new and likes the concept of, you know, what we're talking about secondhand styling and the advantages we can bring to the environment and to oneself, but they don't know how to go about it, because let's face it, a lot of our little high streets have charity shops, but you go in there and it's really nothing interesting. How do you, I mean, where do you go? I know you live in a specific area that obviously not all listeners will share, but is there a little bit of a rule or direction you could give us, or guidance on how to actually spot these special places?
I love that you asked this question, because the upcoming series, one of our episodes, is kind of like the secondhand guide to charity shops, like starting from scratch, what you need to know. So that's going to be out in just a few weeks, but I will give you
too much away then.
No, but I'll give you viewers a few tips. I'd say, first of all, always dress comfortably, because I don't know if you're like me, but if I get frustrated or agitated and I'm shopping, then it just kills the whole sort of experience of the shopping journey. So dress comfortably, and when you're rummaging, because you do have to rummage, but I like to use the term source because I feel like it's a little bit more uplifting when I'm sourcing. It can get a little bit hot and bothered, so make sure you're comfortable. Also, I tend to try and do charity shops in the weekdays because they tend to kind of churn things out at the end of the week. So always kind of be aware at the end of the week. You are probably no stranger to know that when you go into a charity shop, it's not like a retail store. So you are going to have to do a little bit of looking. Never go in there with an expectation because you will only ever be disappointed. So go in there with an open mind, and always take pieces out. I think the number one thing that a lot of people don't do is truly examine the piece. So hold it up to the light, look at the fabric, look how to take care of it, because even though it's secondhand, you want it to continue on. Can you ultimately give it the best home that it deserves right now? If not, leave it for someone who can. And then I really do, you know, I take care of my pieces, and I look at a charity shop and I just see such a beautiful world full of stories. So take your time, never feel rushed, and definitely kind of think outside of the box a little bit. Just because it may not be something you've worn in the past, is it something that you can wear in the future? But also be very honest with yourself. Don't just buy something because you're thinking, oh, it's fashionable, or I saw someone else wear something like this. Yeah. Or it's cheap, don't buy it. And then finally, the one thing that I've always lived by, and it's actually come in very handy, like that purple dress that you mentioned that I gave away to, well, I haven't given it away yet, where you have to draw someone's name. But yeah, well, a little bit. But when you go into a charity shop, if you see something and you don't have an event planned that it would be suitable for, if it's within the right price range, and if you truly, truly love it, sometimes it's worth just buying it in that moment, because you never know when that event, party, reception will come up and you will have that perfect dress ready for you.
Okay. And one thing that crossed my mind when you were talking, I was thinking clothes swapping. I know there are some online events, but are there actually any shops where you can actually bring your stuff and then swap with what they've got? Does that exist?
So they have something. This is very popular in New York. It's more of like an exchange or trade. So you would buy it, you take in your pieces, and they will kind of value them and give you that value. You can either, like, they can buy it off you, or they can give you credit, and then you have the credit to put towards whatever items you want to buy next within the shop, which I think works really well. So you can basically build your clothes credit and then put it out onto other secondhand pieces.
But you haven't come across that in London, have you? I mean, in UK. I shouldn't say London because we're not all.
We do have a vintage agency in Cheshire, which has that sort of same sort of way of like adding credit and then using it.
Wonderful. And do you find a lot of accessories? Because I'm a handbag brand. Do you have a lot of accessories that you can find in secondhand shops as well, like handbags, or rather not too?
So handbags, yes, definitely. And it's one that I really do look out for. And I've managed to get some like treasures. But when it comes to jewelry, I really do try and stay away from it, because I used to overbuy accessories just because they looked pretty and I'd buy them and I just wasn't wearing them. So when it comes to jewelry, I will look at like a proper, like a vintage store or a vintage market. That's where you can get some amazing steals. But when I go into a charity shop or a consignment store, I generally stay away from the jewelry area, but I will have a look at the bags.
Okay. And now the last questions before we wrap up. Do you have any pieces that you acquired recently that you're happy to share with us?
So because do you know what? My mom has the most amazing closet full of vintage pieces that I'm hoping she's just going to keep sending on down to me. But I didn't think it was fair to show her her clothes. So the pieces that I have with me that were in my car are some recent ones I actually took to a shoot. So that's why I want to show. Now, they won't come across that well on camera, but the quality. So I've got this leather black jacket, which is super simple, but it's a classic piece that is never going to go out of fashion. So I'm all about leather black jackets. And also the when you look at hardware on dresses, I always think that's really
that's
nice.
Gorgeous. What is that? A
And it's like
dress? Oh, it's a mini
dress. A nice little shift dress. And then I also have this piece, which was actually has the, see, it's got the charity. This is actually last week's charity shop.
Okay. I love the color.
Now this was £7, so it's a little bit more expensive than I probably should have bought, but it's polka dots. It had a beautiful ribbon, so it's nice cinch at the waist.
Pretty.
But it's the ruffles at the bottom. And why I bought that at the end of the summer was because this is one that you can put a sweater over the top, or you can put a leather jacket, and you can wear tights and boots. It's a dress that I can definitely pull into autumn and winter.
And you could put some layers underneath, like you could put like a turtleneck or something in cream.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, you know, the layers. Yeah, that's a good thing. Roberta told me that it's always good to layer. You can use summer dresses also in winter if you layer them properly. But these are all the tips and tricks of the trade, isn't it? You know, that dress reminds me of that beautiful dress that Julia Roberts wore in Pretty Woman when she goes to the polo match.
With the big, doesn't she wear a hat in that scene as well?
She does wear a beautiful hat in that, yes, and she's got like white gloves on. She's absolutely
that's my Julia Roberts Pretty Woman dress, ready to go.
A comment that she's using him for SEX when they think, are you the girl for the week? And she says, no, actually, I use for, you know what. Anyway, that's a great line, one of those lines of that movie that remains. Anyway, yeah, great dress. I love that.
Thank you.
You can wear it with heels or with flats. You can play around with that. Amazing.
Either or, and you can just, it's one that's going to last quite a few years, I think, that dress. But yeah, I mean, I have a variety of different numbers. Like I said, I take care of every single piece and that's one thing that we talk about in this series, is that we talk about the money side of shopping and spending and consumption. And one thing that I share with the audience is that I had to move back to England and literally start from scratch. And I had to create a look and a brand that meant that I was appearing to have my life together when really I didn't. And I shared that sort of story. And I think hopefully that will be inspiring to others to know that it's not just about, you know, secondhand just from a fashion point of view, but if you are, you know, if you're a parent, or if you're an individual who's wanting to start a business and you just want your money to go somewhere else, it needs to go to your home, or, you know, new car, or children, or wherever, but yet you still want to look nice, you don't have to feel guilty about spending money on clothes, because it is an affordable way to shop, and also a better way sometimes when you shop secondhand.
Yes, and I think now with what you said, the best way to finish would be to say your line, which you're saying a lot so much. You don't have to spend. So
you don't have to spend $1 million to look, well, no, you don't have to, oh my gosh, you don't have to spend $1 million to look like $1 million. There
exactly, there we go. And that is so true. It's very true. Thank you so much, Lucy, for taking the time to coming on board, chat so candidly about the in and outs of secondhand styling, and also to share your beautiful pieces with us, which is personal too. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Giovanna.